Another game, another loss to a team with a winning record. Portland has lost 8 or 9 straight against teams that have winning records. Tonight, it was more of the same. It was poor defense, poor defensive positioning, the inability to grab a defensive rebound. This was a very frustrating game from a creator's perspective, from a fan's perspective, hopefully from a player's perspective as well, because the problems that are plaguing this team don't seem to be improving whatsoever. What's going on, everybody? It's Tori. Welcome to the Uprise Postgame show. We're going to be recapping Portland's loss to the Denver Nuggets in Denver tonight. They lost by 11 points. I forget what the final score was, but Portland was somewhat competitive despite what I'd say it was a bad brand of basketball all game long. They were hitting shots. Hassan Whiteside had a terrific performance, and Portland was within 1 at the end of the third quarter. Then Denver went on a 10-0 run over the course of a couple minutes, got up 11 by the start of the fourth quarter, and basically put Portland away in 2 minutes. I'll take your guys' questions. I might bring Eric on here. I haven't talked to Eric today, but I'm going to have to go in on some of the issues that are plaguing this team. I mean, it's going to be some of the same stuff I've said in prior post-game shows, but I haven't really talked about coaching recently, and I think this was an example of a poorly coached team going up against the Denver Nuggets, which I think is a very well-coached team. I don't think the Denver Nuggets are really that much more talented than the Portland Trail Blazers, and I don't think Denver played all that well either. They hit threes, but I think that was us letting them get going by leaving them wide open, especially in the corner, especially Jeremy Grant. What is it with Jeremy Grant? For whatever reason, we refuse to guard that guy. That guy has turned into a Blazer killer because we let that guy get tons of great wide open threes. I'm definitely going to go in on in this post-game show. I was tweeting out a bunch of my complaints with the way the team is playing, a bunch of the issues that I've seen, and I'm going to go in on those in this post-game show. I got chat right here as I always do. I'll be checking in with you guys if I'm not looking at the camera. For those of you who wonder, why doesn't he look at the camera more? It's because I'm reading chat, trying to keep up with you guys while I present my thoughts on air. So that's how it goes. Anyway, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in. This is gonna be a venting session a bit. It's not gonna be a rant where it's like venomous. There's just issues that aren't improving, man. There's just issues that really aren't improving. It's rough, dude. So first issue, our defense, and there's certain things into it. My bed looks a little nicer as if I keep it made when I don't. Anyway, defensive positioning, man. Our defensive positioning has been awful. And I'll bring up the tweet I tweeted out too, just so I can explain it efficiently, because that tweet, I think, did a good job of explaining it. If you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, go follow me at ToryJonesYT. I lost a follower tonight. I'm at 496, probably because I was being a little too negative in regards to the team. But I'm just calling it how I see it. I'm just calling it. I'm just pointing out what's happening out there on the floor. So I'm at 496 followers. You guys can help me to get to 500 if you don't already follow me on Twitter. I'd appreciate it. And also, if you want live intel into what's going on the court, then follow my Twitter, because I live tweet what I'm seeing as the game goes along. But I'm going to find that tweet. So I said, this is what I tweeted out, and this was in the first half too, and it was a problem in the second half. I said, one of the biggest problems I've had with Portland's defense this year is how defenders position themselves when defending off the ball. They often get caught in between fully helping onto the ball handler and staying out on shooters, which are their original assignment. They often do this even if the ball handler isn't going downhill. So guys will leave too much space between them and their man when defending off the ball to get into more of a help side position, but it will be in situations when they don't even need to be in help side position that far away from their man because the ball isn't a threat to score, because the guy guarding the ball is doing a good job on the ball, because there's help from the big guy. But you'll see guys like Carmelo Anthony, especially in the second half when he's guarding Jeremy Grant, playing too far off him when his help isn't needed, when his help isn't even coming from the right spot, when you have a big guy there to help, when the ball isn't even getting to the rim. So these guys are just kicking it out to Jeremy Grant in the corner, and he's basically wide open because we're over-helping. Our defensive positioning isn't good. And that's the thing. It's like, if you help all the way, maybe you provide enough of a presence onto the ball that kick-out pass isn't there. If the ball is able to get downhill, then yeah, maybe help onto the ball. And make it so that the ball is smothered in a way that maybe that kick out pass, he has to throw it up in the air. That gives the defense time to rotate, or maybe he doesn't get that pass out. Maybe it becomes a problem. But even when the ball does get downhill, the Blazers still don't really properly help because they help over, completely leave their guy, but they don't help hard enough to make that kick out pass hard. And the guy driving the ball sees that easy kick out pass to the corner, and teams get wide open corner threes against us. Consistently get wide open corner threes, which is the best three-point shot to get. I see a lot of Blazer fans say, why does it seem like guys shoot so well against us? You got Jeremy Grant. I think he started 5 for 5 from the three-point line. Why is that? Well, that's the reason right there. That defensive positioning is not good. And I got in a conversation with Keith Feltner-Smith. He's a host of the Trailcasters, and he was pointing out, okay, it's probably a lack of chemistry, but I didn't agree with that take. I got into a little back and forth with him, nothing personal at all. Keith's my guy. But it was just an interesting debate. It was a basketball debate. And what I was trying to point out is a lot of the problems that Portland has defensively isn't due to chemistry, and I don't even think it's due to personnel. It's not like we have guys consistently getting blown by on the perimeter because they're just not quick enough laterally. That would be a personnel problem. A lot of our issues come from guys just not being in the right position, and maybe that's just guys not being able to learn things like that, but it's definitely not a chemistry thing, because how much you help when you're guarding the guy in the corner, how much you help onto a drive, that's not really dependent upon who's around you, if that makes sense. That's a read and react situation. We have veterans on the roster that have been in these situations numerous times before. It's the same situation where, okay, you got a guy driving, you might need to provide some help defense, but you just have to read and react to the situation. And it just makes no sense how we have guys like Bazemore, Carmelo, that have been doing this for years but can't seem to be in the right spot defensively. I don't think Melo is a bad defender, to be honest. I think he's a solid one-on-one defender. I think Melo's biggest problem is he's not in the right position. The problem is, though, it's not just Melo. It's like the entire team doesn't really know how to defend guys that are sitting in the corner. They either overhelp. Honestly, they overhelp way too much. I wouldn't even say there's really any issues where they don't help when they should. It's they overhelp and leave guys wide open when their help isn't needed. It's a big problem with our defense. That's why teams like Denver is able to get hot from the three-point line and have a guy like Jeremy Grant who just goes into superhero mode from the three-point line and cashes in pretty much everything he throws up there. So that's one of my biggest problems. Our defense is not on the same page. They're not on a string. They're not well positioned. And the problem is, this has been a problem all season long, and it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better. A lot of these problems, rebounding, that's not getting any better. And I'll go into that next. It's just problems like these are reasons why we're losing games. So you hear the argument that people like to pose to me a lot when they disagree with me. Oh, well, just look at their injuries. Just look at who they have out there on the court. They're missing Collins, they're missing Nurkic, they're missing Rodney Hood now. But missing those guys isn't the reason we're losing games. The reason we're losing games is because we can't box out for whatever reason. We don't box out, and we give up offensive rebounds when we do get a stop. Our defense is bad enough that we can't be affording to give up offensive rebounds when we actually get the other team to miss a shot. It's that combined with poor defensive positioning. That side of the ball has been a big problem. There's problems with our offense, too, that aren't due to not having Nurkic, not having Collins in terms of the way our offense is ran. But I thought we made some shots tonight. We shot a ton of jump shots. We didn't really attack the rim at all, but we were making some jump shots. Whiteside was making jump shots. Carmelo was making jump shots. We were knocking down shots, and that goes into my whole problem with Terry Stotts. Almost every post game, he always says, "Oh, well, we just didn't make shots tonight." And most of the losses they have, we just didn't make shots. We just got to make shots. Well, look at this. They made shots, still lost by double digits. And I know Denver's a good team. Denver's a hard place to win. But Denver had lost 5 out of 6 games going into tonight. They weren't playing well. In the first 3 quarters, they played a poor brand of basketball. They did make shots, but their offense wasn't that good. Our defense made their offense look better than how it actually is. I don't think Denver's that good of a team. I've said this before. But you got guys saying, okay, it's the injury issue, it's the chemistry issue. I don't think that's the issue at all. The issue at all. It's I don't know. It's more of a basketball IQ thing. I think it's more of it's probably a bit of a coaching thing too, because I didn't think the Portland Trailblazers' positional defense was ever that good under Terry Stotts, and that was when they had good defenders in Maurice Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu. That was when they had I don't know how you say the word. They had the same players on the team year after year, so you can't blame chemistry for that. This team just doesn't seem to know how to be in the right spot defensively. They struggle to rotate, and that's when they're usually only running one defensive scheme. It's not like they even switch up schemes. They've switched up schemes more this year than in past years, but they run one scheme as much as any NBA team. So the fact that they don't know where to be, they don't know when to help, when to not help, they don't know these basic defensive things, it's a problem. And I'd be more optimistic if I saw some signs of improvement here or there. But this was one of the worst games of the season in terms of them not being in the right place defensively. This game was bad, and there's just no signs of improvement. We can get away with not being in the right position defensively against bad teams because bad teams don't make you pay. But I'm worried about how we compete against good teams, because I think we have a 1-9 or a 1-10 record against teams with a winning record. Our last win against a team with a winning record was against the Dallas Mavericks all the way back in October. So that's the thing. We're not good enough right now, and it's due to these problems. So we got to improve these problems, but I'm not sure under this head coach, under Terry Stotts, that these problems are going to improve, because I think they were a bit of a problem area in years past, but we had personnel that did a better job of masking those deficiencies. Aminu and Harkless could cover so much ground so fast that they could be in the wrong position defensively, but they could still get out to shooters. Now we don't really have that luxury. Guys need to be in the right position because they're not in Al-Farouq Aminu or Maurice Harkless, and they're not in the right position. But then the boxing out thing, too, is getting absolutely ridiculous in the first half, man. Denver had 8 offensive rebounds, and most of them came from Portland not boxing out. In elementary school, that's when you learn how to box out, all right? But this NBA team needs to spend an entire practice just working on boxing out. I'd make the whole team run lines if I saw somebody give up an offensive rebound because they didn't box out. Sometimes other teams will get offensive rebounds because they hustle or they, get a lucky bounce off the rim. But that wasn't really the case tonight. It was Portland not boxing out. There was one possession that sticks out in my mind. I should have recorded it and tweeted it out for you guys. But there was a possession where the shot went up. It was like a contested mid-range jump shot. You're expecting it to miss. There was 4 Blazers in good defensive rebounding position. All they had to do was turn and box out their guy, and they would have sealed off like a 8-foot area around the rim. Almost all 4 Blazers, it might have been all 4 of those Blazers, ran right to the rim, and then the ball went over their heads. You don't run to the rim on a rebound because you can't get what goes over your head, and even if something goes right above you, the offensive player is able to get to your back, they're able to get close to the rim, and then you're jumping up with them. You want the ball to come off in front of you. You want to seal the offensive player off of the rebound, and then the rebound to end up in front of you, because then you're the only one that can go get the ball. That's why you box out. This team does not box out, and it's absolutely ridiculous. This team shouldn't be that bad of a rebounding team. That's another one of the areas where, we're not rebounding well. We don't have Collins. You know what I mean? We don't have Collins, and we don't have Nurkic. And No, just box out. It's an elementary school concept. It's something that you learn at the age of 7 years old. Like, it's the one thing that basketball players, when they're kids, they can't do a single thing. It's the one thing that they're able to do. You turn around and hold the guy off the rebound. It's not a complicated thing. But this team, for some reason, just doesn't box out. It's ridiculous, and it almost makes me so mad that I'm not even mad. Like, it's just like, seriously, like, I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. The fact that we can't box out is ridiculous. If I was Terry, I'd be lighting a fire under their ass every time they don't box out. I would have yelled at them at halftime. I know it's an NBA team and you can't coach them like a high school team or a college team, but NBA players should be doing basic fundamentals. You shouldn't have to drill that into their heads. And if they're not doing basic fundamentals, you got to drill that into their heads. And I don't seem like Terry drills that into their heads. I've never once heard Terry say, "Oh yeah, we didn't box out well tonight." That's never a thing. It's always, we missed shots, the other team made shots, and, that's the game right there. The game is about making shots. That's I've heard stuff like that so much. I've never heard him call out the team for not boxing out, and boxing out's a problem. You gotta hold this team more accountable with this type of stuff. I just don't think they're being held accountable, which is why we're seeing absolutely no improvement, which is why I'm worried for this entire season. It's why I don't want Terry Stotts as the head coach of my favorite basketball team. So I'm gonna check out chat because that rant's over. Press L2 to box out. That's what you do in 2K. I box out better in 2K than this NBA team does in real life. It's just fundamentals, dude. I could be fine if we're losing because the other team's more talented and, maybe we get good shots. Maybe we try and attack the rim and switch things up and we move the ball well and, we just can't get layups to fall, can't get threes to fall. The other team is playing a good brand of offense and we're in good position defensively. They're just talented and making shots. Like, if we lose a game like that, I'm completely fine. I'm like, dang, we got beat by a better team that made some tough shots. We played a good brand of basketball and, you still end up losing some games like that. But that's not the case. That's not the case. We're not doing the fundamentals. Passing, cutting, boxing out, good defensive positioning. Those types of things we're not doing. We might be the worst team in the NBA in regards to fundamentals. Obviously, we're not the worst team overall in the NBA. Well, that's because we got Damian Lillard. We got CJ McCollum. We got Hassan Whiteside, who is an absolute beast tonight. That's why we're not the worst team in the NBA. In terms of fundamentals, we might be the worst team in the NBA. Fundamentals are a problem, man. You guys agree with that? Do you guys see what I'm saying? Does this make sense to you guys? I'm curious to hear what you think about everything that I just had to say. Okay, Medina 088 LOL chill. Always rant after each loss, but give hope after win. Decide if we suck or have a chance. Don't switch game to game. I'm going to call it like I see it, bro. I don't see you really commenting in here. It's funny how people that have these types of things to say are usually the people that don't really comment in here. If there's a game where we absolutely suck at the fundamentals, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass or something like that. If there's a game where we do the fundamentals better and we play a good brand of basketball, obviously I'm going to be positive because we had a positive performance. If we have a negative performance where we literally don't box out, we're in horrible position defensively, we don't pass the ball, stuff like that, you expect me to just sit here and ignore that? If you want somebody that's just going to if you don't like somebody telling it how it is on the court, then this might not be the best channel for you guys. For any of you who don't just want somebody to tell it how it is, because that's what I do. I tell it how it is. Okay? So if that's a problem with you, if you think oh, you just flip-flopping that type of stuff, then obviously you're not going to really enjoy watching me then, because I call it how it is. I'm on old Jacob. Is it Jakob or Jacob, man? I still forget that. But he says Tori is on point tonight. I am on point. I'm the one who keeps it more real than anyone else in Blazer Media. If you want something that's not going to keep it real, fine. There's other things out there for you. I hate when people try and call me out for keeping it real, man. But I understand it's going to happen. Eric Olson says, our set plays seem unimaginative and relatively stagnant. In any case, they're not getting guys open, so guys wind up having to play ISO to get a shot off before the shot clock expires. I 100% agree. There was a possession in the second half where I saw 5 to 6 passes from the Blazers. All right, that's good, right? But all the passes came from guys that were within 3 feet of each other, and they were all around the three-point line. And then, I think it was the start of the fourth quarter, too, when Malone was doing his interview. I think it was that possession. And then finally, Simons gets the ball. Like, okay, I'm going to go one-on-one. He ended up getting to the rim scoring with a good move, but it's just like, oof, those 5-6 passes, what did they accomplish? I want more ball movement, but it needs to be productive ball movement with a plan. It's just guys like kind of just like, okay, here you go. You take it. Oh, you take it. All right, I'm going to run behind you, and you're going to hand it off to me. Okay, I'm going to pass it back. That's their offense. Like, that's so many offensive sets are like that. It drives me crazy, man. You're 100% right on that, Eric Olson. I agree with you, man. Yeah. Matt is different, says, we need some defensive rotations and take away baseline. Yes, baseline, man. There were so many times we let them get baseline. I don't know if it was the plan or if we were just doing a bad job closing out or a bad job positioning ourselves when guarding the guy with the ball in the corner, but they were killing us by driving baseline. If our goal was to let guys drive baseline, obviously wasn't really a good defensive game plan there, because they crushed us going baseline. You want to funnel them to your help. Most of the time, your help is going to be middle. Would rather make guys drive middle in the NBA. College level, you can kind of get away with funneling guys baseline just because guys aren't as fast, so you're able to rotate and cut them off before they get into the paint easier, and then they don't have like. I don't know. There's just not as much space. It's just, I don't really know how to explain it. Like, letting guys go baseline is like, okay, in college ball. In the NBA, you're probably going to get hurt more times than not. And they were killing us today, driving baseline. But we kept closing out on the high side, taking away the middle of the court and funneling them baseline. So they're, okay, they were completely fine with that. They just went baseline, picked us apart from there. That's a great point. That's something that I did want to mention, but I was going to forget that until Matt is different pointed that out. That's a great point. Like, giving up the baseline is a problem, and we got picked apart on that. Eric Brandt says, so many possessions just taking turns. Who gets to shoot? Dame shoots next time down. CJ shoots next time down. Simon shoots next time down. Melo shoots. No flow. There is no flow, man. The thing is, this was an example of a game where they didn't have a bad night offensively because they made jump shots, but it wasn't really a good brand of offense. You know, Melo hit shots. Whiteside was phenomenal. Whiteside set a career high. Whiteside was possibly the best player on the court tonight on both sides, even though he was on the losing side. But overall, it was not a good brand of basketball. There's just little to no ball movement. And it's like, we might see ball movement against a poor team. I need to see it against a good team. I need to see this ball movement that we showed during that 3-game stretch where we played Chicago and crushed them. We played OKC at home and crushed them. And then we played Chicago at home, and that game was closer and it wasn't as good, but there's still some decent stretches here and there of good ball movement. But those were 3 lottery teams. I need to see it against a good team. I have yet to see it against a good team. Haven't seen it once this season where we've moved the ball well against a good team. If you combine that with our problems defensively on the boards, we're just a team that just cannot be a good team right now. We'll keep it close enough because we have talent. We'll keep it close against Milwaukee, keep it kind of close against Denver, but it's just like going into the fourth quarter, it almost seems like there's always some sort of stretch where the winning team, the team with a winning record, the team that's better than us, just, okay, let's just go on a 10-0 run in the next 2 minutes and put this team away. And they do that, and it's like, okay, well, we lost this game by 10. That's been the story almost every time we play a good team. There's a story against Toronto at home earlier this year. You could probably point out a lot of other teams where that was the case. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating, man. I'm getting frustrated with us not playing a good brand of basketball, and it seems like we'll try to play a good brand of basketball for 3 games, and it's like after those 3 games where we actually do kind of play a good brand of basketball, it's like the team's like, okay, we got this down, we don't have to focus on this anymore, and then it reverts back to the same crap. Like, and that's just, and that goes back to coaching for me. They're not able to keep this team consistently focused on improving areas of deficiency. And that's how you end up with games like tonight. But, I'm interested to hear Terry Stotts' post-game press conference. If you guys have a link to that, link it, and I'll play it on the stream. I'll play the audio on the stream, and we can react to it together. South Curry had 30 tonight. Yeah, we couldn't really bring him back. I would have rather had Hood than Curry. It sucks that Hood's hurt now, but we could only bring back one of Seth, Hood, and Canner, and we brought back the right one, the one who really wanted to be here. Russell, first round exit Westbrook says, do you think he's going to admit we got good shots tonight? I don't think we particularly got good shots, honestly. Terry Stotts loves his jump shots, so when they fall, he probably looks at, okay, we got good shots tonight, we scored well. But there is just stretches, especially in the fourth quarter, where we just did not attack the rim. We just don't attack the rim enough, especially when jumpers aren't falling. It's almost like if we shoot well from the three-point line in the first half, it worries me because I know, okay, for the rest of this game, this team is just going to settle for jump shots, and if they don't keep up this really hot shooting, then we're going to lose this game. That's the case against good teams. It's like a catch-22. Like, yes, you want them to shoot well in the first half, but shooting well in the first half makes it so they're just going to settle for jump shots the rest of the game, not attack the rim, and it's hard to shoot really, really well for an entire game. When you start struggling to shoot jump shots, then you need to attack the rim. And a lot of times they'll start off hitting jump shots because they're not really settling for jump shots. They're getting good looks in terms of their jump shots. The problem is once they start hitting some of those good looks and they start taking worse looks, and then they end up cold, they end up out of rhythm, it affects them the rest of the game. So it's almost counterproductive when they start off hot. And we've seen it in multiple games where Blazers have started off up 15, up 20. There was the game against San Antonio that we lost. The first game we played in San Antonio, we ended up 20 because we were hitting jump shots, and then we went super cold and kept settling for jump shots. That's the problem. When this team gets hot, they start settling for jump shots, and they don't mix it up. They don't attack the rim enough. They don't have sets that really get guys cutting towards the rim. How many passes do you see inside the arc? Think about this. Other than pick and roll, how many passes do you see inside the arc? They're so rare. They are so rare. Unless it's like to a guy trying to post up or to a pick and roll guy. That's like the only passing that goes on inside the three-point line. I need a new coach, please, man. I need a new head coach now. Needed a new head coach for the past 3 years. But I'm the only one that'll point this stuff out. Give this man a new head coach. I know it's not happening, Eric. Thanks for pointing that out, man. I know it's not happening. We've had this conversation a lot. I don't need to hear it's not happening. That pisses me off because I want it to happen. But I know it's not going to happen. What do you think about the third player this season having back spasms? That was super weird. Nasir Little got diagnosed with back spasms, out for the game, but he hadn't even played, so maybe Terry was like, oh, maybe I should be playing Nasir Little. Oh, I need an excuse. Okay, Nasir Little, you have back spasms. Okay, that'll be my excuse for not playing you. I don't think that's actually what happened, but that'd be pretty sly of Stotts. You probably would have heard it before the game, you'd think, but maybe it was something that was happening before the game. It's just weird that they reported it in the fourth quarter or the end of the third or whenever it was. Dame Dallas says, I never hated Stotts before this season because no one had pointed it out. And that's, yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. If you are a fan of mine, you don't have to like agree with me or anything. I'm providing my perspective, and I'm hoping that my perspective helps you look at the game a little different way and helps you like learn things enough so that you feel confident in your own opinion on what you see out there on the floor. A lot of these guys, a lot of the media doesn't really go into depth like I try to go into depth. So like a lot of their followers don't go into depth either. They'll call me out on Twitter, or they'll try and say I'm wrong about things, but they rarely, if ever, will actually go into depth on some actual basketball topics, unless it's repeating some of the same talking points. You know, it's a lack of chemistry, it's injuries. That's about all I ever hear. You know what I mean? They're not talking about defensive rotations. They're not talking about defense positioning. They're not talking about this type of thing. So my whole goal, like, I want to educate my viewers, you know, not saying you guys need to be more educated or anything. I'm just trying to provide like information in an entertaining way so that, you know, just to help you guys learn more about the game, even learn more about the CBA. That's why me and Eric talk about things like bird rights. We talk about like possible trades and like what makes trades work. Like we're trying to, you know, educate fans because we see a lot of fans out there who come up with trade ideas that don't work under the CBA, don't make any sense, that type of thing. So like Eric and me, we both know a ton about the CBA, so we try and educate our viewer base on things like the CBA and on, you know, kind of complex things that happen out there on the court. So like I try and help you guys like learn different things that I see, and you don't have to agree with me. I'm just, you know, hopefully it helps you see the game a little bit on a little bit deeper level. Other guys, they don't care about educating their viewers, you know. I mean, maybe they do. You know, I shouldn't put words in anybody's mouth, but I don't feel like any other media member cares about educating their viewers because, I don't know, that's just the vibe I get from them. Like, I'm just different like that. So, appreciate you, Robbie Stackhouse. Alvaro Bazan says, the season has been hard to watch. It's sad that we've resorted to praying for an upset. Also, once again, Hassan was amazing, yet some fans keep trying to say he's the problem. Shaking my head. Yeah, Hassan's not the problem, man. Hassan is great. Hassan is... That's the thing, is... it would help if we had Nurkic, but I'm not using, we're missing the 3 starters, because it's like, we have a starter in place to Nurkic. We're only down 2 starters right now. We knew Nurkic was going to be out for the majority of the season. We went out and made a good move and got a really, really good starting center. So... You know, we're missing Rodney Hood and we're missing Zach Collins. That's the 2 starters we're missing, in my opinion. Yes, Nurkic would start when he gets back, but we still have a starting center, and that starting center tonight was phenomenal. I got to look up his stat line right now because I'm curious to see what his final numbers were. But this is against Nikola Jokic, too. Hassan Whiteside, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. Also had 4 blocks. 15 for 21 shooting, 1 for 1 from the 3-point line. Hassan Whiteside made a damn 3. Like, his stroke looked good. There's a couple times in the second half where he had the ball in the 3-point line not being guarded, and it was kind of like our offense was so stagnant and not getting good shots anyway. I was like, screw it, just launch that thing. Like, shoot another one. Like, you made your first one in the first half. Like, screw it. Our offense isn't accomplishing much right now. We're relying on tough jumpers anyway, so... I don't know. Hassan was great tonight, though. Was the leading scorer on both sides. And the thing is, I feel bad for Hassan because it's like he's tasked with trying to hold this spotty defense together, but it's like this defense is so bad around him, he can't do it by himself. He needs more help out there. Eric Brandt says that Blazers Uprise has been telling you since before the season Hassan isn't the problem. I've been saying that this whole time. Fans were so quick to hate on him. It was just like they were taking stuff Heat fans said and were just like way too quick to try and apply it to Hassan Whiteside. You know, the lazy, the empty stats, that type of stuff, like, you know, stuff like that. Like, yes, he does chase rebounds, but he's still a really good rebounder. He still gets 16 rebounds, 17 rebounds per 36 minutes. It's phenomenal. He's a really good rebounder. Nurkic and him, I think, are equal rebounding wise. Whiteside has better numbers, but he knocks his teammates off of rebounds a little bit more. But that doesn't mean that it's empty stats. You know what I mean? He's still a good rebounder. He's still has been efficient inside, a good pick and roll finisher. His passing has gotten better. He's had a nice pass to Simons tonight. His blocked shots, that's him protecting the rim. I don't understand the whole argument of empty stats and lazy. He doesn't look lazy to me. You don't drop 33, 11, and 4 by being lazy. Dude's not lazy. The whole narrative around Hassan was so ridiculous to me. Hassan has never, ever been the problem with this team. Ever. He's never been the problem with this team. At all. Eric Brandt at Brian Scalabrini. Torrey Stotts needs to come coach your team. Don't put Stotts' last name on my first name, man. That's insulting. Don't associate me with the Stotts name. Gassy Jalapeno says, not even upset tonight. I'm like, blah, whatever. Yeah, I'm kind of getting used to losing, especially against good teams. And it kind of sucks, but it's also kind of nice. Because, I wasn't, super pissed. I'm frustrated. I'm emotionally invested. And I'm frustrated that we're seeing this team not even do the basic fundamentals and not improving on them whatsoever. But, I don't know. This season, just we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens, and I can vent on here and light it out and give you guys an opportunity to vent in the live chat, that type of thing, about some of the issues that this team is facing. And then after, post-game live streams, after I'm off of them, I'm able to move on, where, last year, I'd carry on the loss throughout the night until I went to sleep. Now, after the stream shuts off, after I hit that end stream button, I'm all right. I hope this team can improve some of the areas they're struggling, because right now this team can't beat a winning team, and we're going to have to beat winning teams at some point to get into the playoffs. We're not going to be able to rely on just beating up on poor teams, and the thing is, we've been losing games here and there to teams we shouldn't lose to anyways. That's how we ended up 11-16 now. So we got to start figuring this out, man. Got to start doing the fundamentals. We got to start from the ground up. Got to do the fundamentals. The thing is, an NBA team shouldn't struggle with fundamentals. It's an NBA team. These guys are NBA players. These guys have been coached the fundamentals their whole entire life. So the fact that we got to put such an emphasis on fundamentals is ridiculous. Box out. Box out, man. Defensive positioning. Passing cut. Screen away. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. Oh, by the way, at Blazers Uprise, thoughts on 6 players scoring points today. Only 6 players scored. Oh, yeah, Trent didn't score. Zonia didn't score. Labissiere didn't score. We have our bench is bad. Our bench is so bad, man. Scal's been kind of struggling lately. Scal just doesn't look to shoot, though. He'll have open mid-range jump shots, and it's we're shooting jump shots anyway, contested pull-up jump shots almost every time down the court. Why wouldn't Scal shoot an open 3 or an open mid-range jump shot? It's so strange. It's he has no confidence in his shot, and I don't know why. That Milwaukee Bucks game he had where he dropped 22 points or whatever, that was when he really looked for his shot. He had confidence in his shot, and his shot's a really good fundamental stroke. He has a good shot. It's like the coaching staff has killed his confidence in his jump shot. I don't know what it is. It's so strange to me. Yell at this dude for not taking open jump shots. Get this dude to the point where he's just F it mode and super confident in his shot and will shoot jump shots. Because this team, that's all they're getting anyway. So you might as well take the open one with the guy who's been a good shooter throughout his career, has shown that when he's aggressive and willing to take shots, he can knock them down. I don't understand why Scal isn't being utilized at all. You know what I mean? People were hating on Scal's performance tonight. I don't think Scal was that bad. Rebounding, he has to rebound better, has to box out better. He was part of the problem with boxing out. But dude's just not utilized offensively. 2 shots in 23 minutes. 0 points. He was a negative 21. So team really struggled with him out there on the court, but he was often out there on the court with Hezonja, who's a minus 10 in 14 minutes. Hezonja shot one shot, 0 points. I'm not expecting Hezonja to score. Gary Trent Jr. in 5 minutes, 0 for 3. He hasn't shown anything at the NBA level. So we got to make a move from a roster standpoint, whether it's trading for a starter, putting Bazemore back on the bench because Bazemore's shooting has gotten slightly better lately. He kind of struggled tonight, but it's been a little bit more improved. Getting a starter, sending Bazemore to the bench, or getting a guy to come off the bench who can actually provide more than 0 points, because Simons was the only guy who scored off the bench tonight. He was 4 for 9 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, so that's not even great efficiency. Simons was a negative 29. Simons' defense has been rough. He's one of the guys that overhelps, doesn't really know where to be defensively, but he's a 20-year-old, so you kind of expect that. I don't expect that guys like Kent Bazemore, Carmelo Anthony, even Mario Hezonja, he's been around the league for 5 years, but they do it just as much. Gassy Jalapeno says, kind of wish the league would make the pick and roll illegal so then I could see Stotts panic for real. What's that move, Tori? It can be as small as going out and trading for Glenn Robinson on December 15th, who's getting 12 points per game. A second round pick or 2 for Glenn Robinson. You can usually buy your way into the back half of the second round, so I'm fine with trading second round picks. And then that guy off the bench, 12 points per game, efficient scorer, 39% 3-point shooter this year. He's not like a flashy name, but he'd be much better than Mario Hezonja. Much, much better than Mario Hezonja. Eric Brandt says, what's funny is the Bulls are only a game behind us record-wise, even though we beat them twice. Yeah. I mean, a lot. Like, we're there with the bad teams. We're one of those teams right now. We're starting to become the team that, like, Denver's like, oh, we've lost 5 and 6, but we're coming home for 8 of 10 games, and first game is against the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, we get, it's like, we used to have that feeling. We're like, okay, we're playing the Bulls at home. All right, we got this. We should win this game. We should be good. Should be able to enjoy this game. That's teams against us now. I hate that. That's ridiculous. We're the best of the bad teams right now. I would say that, yeah. We're the best of the bad teams right now. Yeah, I'm going to look at the team stats. I want to compare these teams. Identical from the field, basically. 47.7% for both teams. We were 41 for 86. They were 42 for 88. But they made 18 3-point shots. They were 18 for 36, 50%. We were 9 for 30, 30%. So that's an additional 9 points. They made an additional field goal and 9 more threes. So that comes out to an additional 11 points. We lost by 15. The additional field goal comes from them out offensive rebounding us 15-7. They shot 8 more free throws too. For as many threes they were shooting and how well they were shooting from the 3-point line, they were still mixing it up and attacking the rim, which is what I wish we would do. They weren't really settling for mid-range shots. They were getting good threes. They were driving, getting fouled, getting to the rim a little bit. And if not, they were sucking in the defense, kicking out. So they were either attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line, getting shots inside, or getting good open 3-point looks. Part of that is them being a well-coached team, being a good offense, having good talent. Part of that was our defensive positioning. Overhelping, and letting wide open kickouts happen. I don't know why we'd overhelp when we got Hassan Whiteside protecting the rim. We got 4 blocks and who's done a decent job protecting the rim, but like a lot of it was also ticky-tack fouls, guys driving us, reaching, hitting arms, that type of thing. But you can't give up 8 more free throws. You can't have the other team shoot 8 more free throws than you and make 18 threes in a game. You can't, and if you're going to do that, you definitely can't give up 15 offensive rebounds and only have 7. So you get out offensive rebounded by 8, give up 8 more free throws and give up 18 threes. I don't care what team it is, you're probably not going to win that game. And that's been a problem area so far this season. Our 3-point defense against good teams has been bad, especially against the Denver Nuggets, 2 games we've played them. Jeremy Grant loves playing us. I'm sure his eyes light up when he sees us on the schedule. But, I mean, yeah, that's the game right there. Because from the field, we shot the same percentage. They had 2 more turnovers than us. We had 7 blocks. They only had 2. Now, we did have 50 points in the paint. Majority of that was Whiteside. I'd say at least half of that was Hassan Whiteside coming off the pick and roll. Because they were trapping up on Dame. A lot of them was like Whiteside's little push floaters. I want to see us get to the rim with guys other than Hassan Whiteside in an offensive set other than a pick and roll. Just need to find a way to free up CJ and Dame getting towards the rim. You know, pretty much the only way they're able to get downhill is like one-on-one through pick and roll or taking their defender off the dribble in isolation. I'd love to see these guys somehow get an opportunity to catch the ball going downhill towards the rim against a defense that's not set because we ran some sort of action off the ball in order to free up Dame or CJ going downhill towards the rim. And then they can make decisions from there. It would get the defense scrambling, and then maybe we can get better outside shots. If we're shooting, if we're struggling to shoot, the easiest pass to shoot off of is the pass that comes directly out from around the rim because you're already facing the rim when you are catching the ball. You can kind of line it up. You can see who's running at you before you even catch the ball. So that's the best passes to shoot off of. We don't get many of those passes. So that's why we go cold a lot of times. It's because a lot of times guys are catching it from the side and having to turn into their shot. That's tougher. And then we probably get more layups. We'd probably get to the free throw line more. The defense isn't set and waiting for Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum to drive right at them. That's always been the case with this team. So I will say this, though. Whiteside's playing good enough where, if a contending team has an injury to their starting center or, wants to upgrade and has the contracts available, we might be able to get a first-round pick for Hassan Whiteside. That can be good if we're making a playoff run or if we're, not in the playoff picture and probably not going to make the playoffs. Because that pick we can use in other trades. We can make it a 3-way trade with Whiteside going to the team that wants him, them trading back their contracts to match to a team. Let me try and explain this. Say we're here. Team that wants Whiteside is here. Another team is here. Say we want a player from this team, right? We can trade Whiteside. We can trade Whiteside to this team. They can send contracts to this team. This team can send the player that we want to us, right? If the team that wants Whiteside is willing to give up a first-round pick for Whiteside, that first-round pick can go to the team that we're trying to get a player from, if that makes sense. So, like, say this is, Robert Covington, Gorgie Jang. We could trade Whiteside to a team that wants him. Say they have a big expiring contract, they could give it to Minnesota, and they could give a first-round pick to Minnesota because they want Whiteside, and then Minnesota would give us Jang and Covington. And we could trade Whiteside straight up for Jang and Covington without having to give up a first-round pick or something like that. And Minnesota is a lot more likely to do that trade if they get a first-round pick. So if Whiteside is playing better, then this team is more likely to give up a first-round pick to Whiteside. We can orchestrate a 3-team trade. It would help us out, if we're trying to kind of reshuffle our roster to make the team better, to make the team more balanced for when Nurkic comes back. Then Whiteside's trade value going up could help that, or we could get a first-round pick and use it. We could have 2 first-round picks going into the offseason if we're not going to be a playoff team. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of contending teams already have a really good center, so I don't necessarily think that something like that is going to happen. It would probably take an injury, if the thing is, like, Houston would be a good example. If Clint Capella gets hurt, Whiteside could replace what Clint Capella does and be a good lob target for those guards. Like, he could come in there, fit in right away. That would be a team that'd be willing to trade a first-round pick for Whiteside. I'm just not sure they don't really have expiring contracts to trade us. that would make sense for Hassan Whiteside. I don't see them trading PJ Tucker in a first-round pick because PJ Tucker is kind of their heart and soul, their defensive leader, kind of their lockdown big wing defender. But that's just kind of one of the situations. A team like that. Thing is, Boston would be a great fit for Hassan Whiteside, but they don't really have the contracts to make a move for Whiteside. That's the thing, is they're probably not going to trade Hayward, and then after that, they're probably not going to trade Marcus Smart with a bunch of other pieces because Marcus Smart's only making $12 million. Whiteside's making $27 million. Boston would have to trade out like $22 million, so they'd have to trade Marcus Smart an additional $10 million. They'd have to get that from other places. They're probably not going to want to do that because Marcus Smart is a lot like PJ Tucker for the Houston Rockets. That's like the heart and soul of their team, their defensive leader, their hard-nosed, like they value him probably as much as they value Whiteside. So I'm not sure if there's a scenario that will pop up, but Whiteside's playing great right now. His trade value, he will have trade value. It just takes a team that needs him, that has the contracts, that makes sense to trade him for, that would be willing to maybe give up a late first-round pick for Whiteside, if that makes sense. And production 16, CJ could be the face of the franchise, but who will replace him? Can we trade CJ McCollum? We can't trade him until January 30th, but this team isn't going to trade CJ McCollum. I'm not going to discuss any CJ McCollum stuff this year unless there is like a legit rumor that comes out that Portland might be looking to shop him. That's the only way I'll discuss CJ McCollum trades. I love that song. Anyway, our new team name should be the Portland Back Spasms. It's the third player this year with back spasms. You had Rodney, you had Dame, now you have Nasir Little. The Portland Back Spasms. Can you guys think of a contending team that would want Hassan Whiteside? Let me know. Because I saw questions about Whiteside's trade value. You don't want to necessarily talk about trading a guy. Want to be loyal to guys, especially guys after they play well. But, Whiteside probably knows he's not going to be here a year from now. He's trying to help out this team by helping himself out at the same time, because right now he's playing himself into a better contract this offseason. So, even if he's not on this team long term, it makes sense for him to give it his all and try and help this team win. Be a good team player, just because the man's going to get paid because of that. Yeah, Celtics could use him, but yeah, as I said, Eric Kleiser says, what's the best way to donate without you getting screwed by YouTube taking some of it or donating money? I have a PayPal. It's paypal.me/Blazers Uprise. I'll put it in the chat. If you wanted to donate to me there, then I could read off. You can leave a message like that, and I'll read it off on air. But yeah, I'd get all of the money where YouTube takes like 40% of what gets donated to me. I do like YouTube because I'm able to see it in chat, and chat is able to see it, and it's like a colorful message, So either way is fine. But there's PayPal there if you want, to donate money to me and not half of it to me and half of it to Google, half of it to YouTube. Dame Dollar says the Warriors will want him because they need a center and they'll be contending next year. They're not going to trade a pick, though, because their pick is going to be in the lottery. That's the problem. That's why it would have to be like a team contending this year, because that pick would be low. And they could try and sign him for a mid-level exception next year. If not, there's a good chance they end up there's a good chance they'll have an opportunity to draft James Wiseman this year, who would be their starting center. But I don't see the Celtics giving up Gordon Hayward for Hassan Whiteside. I think they'd look for a cheaper center before going that route. Do I expect any moves by Monday? No. Eric Kleiser says, got to get your funds up to come visit Germany, but will you survive that flight, Tori? No, I couldn't even survive a 2-hour flight to Vegas a couple years ago. I couldn't survive a 12-hour flight to Germany. The anxiety would be bad. I'd have to take some medicine or something. Because I hate heights, man. I hate heights. That's like my one, like, that's my one, like, what's the word? That's my one, like, fear that isn't really, God, I can't think of the word. I'm blanking on the word right now, but that's my one phobia. It's not even really a phobia, because I can be on a bridge, I can be at heights without, like, losing my mind, but I do get anxiety. Would you like a Marcus Morris trade? I don't see how Marcus Morris improves our defense. That's why I'm not on board with Kevin Love. We got to improve our defensive personnel, because I don't think our coaching staff is going to improve our defense in general. Shout out, $5 donation from Robbie Stackhouse to PayPal. No message there that I see, but thank you, Robbie Stackhouse. Appreciate it, man. Also, if I get $100 in donations on a live stream, in one live stream, I'll drop a rap song. I'll actually, like, take it seriously, and it'll probably be cringy, but I'll try and make it good enough that it wouldn't be cringy. That's if I get $100 of donations in one live stream. The reason why it's so high is because I don't want to end up having to do that. But if y'all want to hear me embarrass myself on a track, or maybe surprisingly put out something that's not horrible, then you guys have the power to make that happen. Trade Whiteside and Stotts for Luke Walton. Would you be cool with that? Oh, man. Luke Walton's doing an okay job there. Can we bring in Pippen as defense specialist coach? I'd love that. And we got to have some sort of improvement from our defense. And right now it seems like the only realistic way it could happen is by upgrading our defensive personnel. So that's why I want guys like Otto Porter Jr., Robert Covington, guys like that, not guys like Kevin Love. Danilo Gallinari would be, like, he's so good offensively that I'd be on board with that, but I'd rather get a two-way player, because our defense right now is not good enough to make the playoffs, let alone make a run. So, Tori, who would win the game of 1v1 between Dame and CJ? Probably Dame. That's an interesting conversation, though. CJ and Dame are too small of a backcourt. That really is not the problem whatsoever. I've pointed out many problems this stream, and none of the problems exist because Dame and CJ are too small. If we fix those problems, like, there's just no problems that present themselves from them being too small. CJ has actually been a solid defender this year. Real plus minus is like an advanced stat by ESPN. They just came out with their latest real plus minus. CJ has never fared well in that stat. He's always been around a 0. He's always been around an average player, so to say, because his defense has always been like a -1, -2 in terms of real plus minus. This year it's like a 1.5, and has like a 4.0 real plus minus. He's like in the top 15, and he's always been in the hundreds in previous years. So I thought that was really interesting, and he like leads the league in blocks for players under 6'6" or something like that. So I feel like he defends bigger than he is. You know, guys like Klay Thompson are like one of the, like, they can kind of take it to him, but he's blocking shots like he's bigger than he is. You know, I mean, his defense has improved. We gotta give CJ credit for that. His defense has improved. He still has times where he falls asleep, and that's the times I get frustrated with, but he doesn't really stand out as a problem on that end. So, like, them being too small, like, what is that causing on the floor? What specifically is that creating on the floor that makes it so that we can't win? Because people say, oh, they're too small for us to win. Okay, why? Gotta give me a reason with that. You can say, oh, they don't coexist because they both isolate too much, so then our offense is too much isolation. That would be a valid point. I'd say we need a coach that, I feel like they, you know, in an offensive system that moves the ball, they wouldn't really ISO too much out of that, so I feel like that's more of a coaching staff issue, but that would be a more valid point than just sitting here saying, they're too small for us to win anything. We just made the Western Conference Finals with them. against Denver, against OKC, and we had Al-Farouq Aminu, Maurice Harkless, and Enes Kanter, who isn't even playing for Boston this year. And when he doesn't play, Boston is a lot better. And that's the only reason we went that far is because of our backcourt. Because our backcourt got hot. Because Rodney Hood, too. So I don't see how they're the problem that you come up with. That just seems like a generic surface level take that doesn't go deep enough into things. Is the type of take I see on Twitter too much, and I hate because it just doesn't come across as educated to me. Or else you'd give me a reason why. You'd give me a reason why it's hurting our team. Like, what is it causing? Old Jakob. You gotta tell me if it's Jakob or Jacob. Hausch, is that how you say it? I gotta start saying your name right, bro. How about we hop on some Rocket League? You're from Norway, so I don't know what server we play on. We deal with the lag. But if you play on North American West, I'll probably end up matching up with you. DeAndre Hunter, Jabari Parker into first for Whiteside. Why would Atlanta do that? Why would they trade their first round pick, which is like a top 5 pick, for a player like Whiteside when they're not going to win anything? See, like teams like that makes no sense. So why would they trade the 4th overall pick from the previous year? So they trade 2 top 5 picks and Jabari Parker, who's been a good player for them, for Whiteside in a year where they're going to be one of the top 5 worst teams in the league? That makes no sense. Dro, we are garbage, bro. Our team is horrible. Isn't it time to blow this roster up? See, provide me more than that if I'm going to actually take that question. You know what I mean? Our roster is horrible. Okay, what is horrible? Point out the problem. Point out the areas where we struggle. Point out the areas in terms of our roster construction. Point out where our deficiencies are. Don't just say, bro, we're trash. Shouldn't we blow it up? Like, that's the generic stuff that's just like, come on, man. Just give me more than that. Let's have if you want to ask me a question, okay, I'm down to have a basketball conversation, but it has to be a conversation about basketball, not just surface stuff like our team sucks and our roster is horrible. That's not enough for me. That'd be a question for another post-game show. We give up way too many second chance points. We do. We can't get through screens. That's an area, that's a problem area as well. That's not because of CJ or Dame being too small, though. Seems like we struggle to communicate where screens are, and that's why people struggle to get through them. It's almost like they're shocked that there's a screen there. You communicate. If you're guarding a guy who's setting a screen, you communicate to the guy who's being screened that there's a screen there. Screen right, screen left. You communicate early so they have time to recognize the screens there, which helps them get around it faster. The problem is we don't seem to be doing a great job communicating defensively, so guys don't really know screens are there. That's why they struggle to get through them. Yeah, and old Jakob or Jacob or whatever, you're right, man. It does end up with Whiteside being left on an island. It's kind of unfair to Whiteside. There's only so much he can do. B4TM4N, the guy who said that our backcourt is too small to win, says, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. Us shooting too many jump shots isn't because of our backcourt being too small, though. Eric should come on and rant also. I'll have Eric on the podcast tomorrow night. Unless he wants to come say what's up right now. I don't know if he wants to. It is ruining my life. Eric. Well, he's donated. That's the thing, is I know I'm gonna butcher some names, but dude's donated. So people who have donated, shown their support, as much as he has, I don't want to butcher his name, man. I feel bad. Alright, let's call Eric. You guys successfully got Eric on the stream. I gotta put up that cover because when I open up Skype, it's gonna lag things out. Hey, I do love our post game thumbnails though. I think it's like the best like thumbnail I have. I just wanted you guys to be able to tell apart like our post game streams from the other content on the channel. So, and I feel like the post game thumbnails do a good job of doing that. I actually really like our post game thumbnails. Hopefully you guys do as well. Dro says our passing is horrible. Our bench. Okay, I gotta mute that so you guys don't have to hear that. I gotta put my headphones in. Dro says our passing is horrible. Our bench is horrible. Whiteside puts up stats, but he is lazy. Whiteside's not like, bro. If he gets 33, 11, and 4 when he's lazy, then he can be lazy. Like he's not lazy, man. He's just like he's a slower big man. Like that's a surface level take that Heat fan gave certain Blazer fans who want to make Whiteside like a scapegoat for things that he's not the problem for. You're not right on that. He's not lazy. Dude's working. Eric, I'm looking for my headphones. I can't hear you because you're muted at the moment. Where are my headphones? Gotta find my headphones. I can take this cover off though. Where's my headphones at? Oh, there's a light above this chair too that I keep hitting my head on and it's pissing me off. That hurt. Dude, what? Oh, sounds like Dro listed off a bunch of like coaching issues, though. If you said our coach isn't good enough, then I'd agree with you on that one. Our passing is horrible. Our bench is horrible. That's like our bench is bad. Like our roster isn't the best, but a lot of the problems are fixable. Like let's fix these problems in terms of not doing the fundamentals properly, and then see how good this team is. Because I feel like we can't have a realistic gauge of how good this team can actually be because we're not doing the fundamentals, so we can't get a good feel for how good this team could be. What's up, Eric? You're unmuted now.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Another rough night.
0 to 100% in terms of this post game stream so far and the facts that I'm spitting. How right am I? 0 to 100%.
I mean, you're right on. It's been so.
I wanted to give me a number.
Like 90%.
Okay, I want to hear the 10%.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying you're. I mean, you can only coach so much, and if players fall asleep, but you got to hold them accountable, which doesn't seem like we've talked about this before. How like in high school, if you watch film and you get caught like falling asleep on the backside rotation or something, and someone hits a three because you weren't in the right spot to close out. Like you,
let me thank this donation before you get into this because I want to hear you like whole uninterrupted thing. Shout out Ryan Adams, $5 donation says, "Wish I could donate more. Maybe when I'm rich. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate that. Anyway, let's hear Eric. Go."
But yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone, because the same problems have existed since the beginning of the season, where players are just falling asleep. Not like you said, they kind of half-ass their help. And they don't get there fully, so they're doing nothing to stop the penetrator, and then they're in horrible position when he kicks it out to their man, and he doesn't have a spot to. They don't have enough time to close out on the shooters, and we have another good team shooting the lights out against us tonight. What did they hit, like 15 threes against us or something?
They were 18 for 36.
Yeah, 18 for 36. Nice. Another 50% three-point shooting team against us. And if this was just one game in Denver, this wouldn't really bother me. But it's something that's bothered me all season. Other than Nasir Little, it seems like everyone is playing like they're playing in mud, you know? And like no one's moving fast. No one has energy. No one's like playing with any urgency. I mean, Dame's even talked about it recently, and I haven't really. I mean, yeah, he came out hot against the Knicks, but urgency isn't really just making shots or not making shots. It's playing with like a purpose, like getting after it. Like I don't see anyone like scrapping on the floor, like diving for loose balls. I mean, CJ had a play where he got stripped by Jamal Murray and then just like fouled him, and it was no big deal. Like freaking. Like get mad, and I don't know, it's just like they just don't have any heart this year, and it's really weird because this is a team that in years past has gotten by with effort and energy and stuff like that. And on days when you don't have your shot, that travels, that comes with you no matter what your shot's doing. So like it's just frustrating that they're just like going through the motions again, and it seems like they're not into the games at all. Like it's just weird. I don't know.
I feel like effort is contagious too, but we just don't have like that one guy to provide that spark. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we don't have like a Wesley Matthews type guy, or just like a guy where we can look at like, okay, that guy is like the best hustle player on our team. That's our heart and soul. He makes, those type of guys, they'll make a hustle play and they'll make other guys on the team want to like hustle as well. You don't want your heart and soul of the team, your, energetic, your leader of energy, so to say. You don't want him making a bunch of effort plays and then you like be like half-assed in it. You know what I mean? But we don't have that guy to provide that spark for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Nurk was kind of like that, so it's frustrating that, and Collins is like that too. So you don't know if having those guys would help it, but like I'm not used to seeing that from Dame and CJ and those guys too, though. It's just frustrating. Like they miss a shot and it's just like nothing happens. Like I don't know. It's just I'm not seeing enough emotion, I don't think. And
yeah, I don't think so either. I agree with that 100%.
Yaka.
Shout out to Jacob Heauji. He says, "Feel free to butcher my name again, Tori." Yeah, well, I mean, I've asked him for the right pronunciation multiple times, and he hasn't given it to me, so I feel bad anymore because this ain't my fault anymore.
You just gotta.
This is all Jacob's fault.
You just gotta pronounce it as horribly as you can think of.
Yeah, shout out. I know I'm gonna pronounce it differently every time. So shout out to him for the $20 of Norwegian kron. What is it? Cronies? I think it's called. I don't know. Norwegian bucks, basically. I did want to respond to this real quick before I get some more of your thoughts. Eric Butchard. I probably butchered Eric Butchard's last name. But the one thing that keeps bugging me about the channel is that it always gets caught up in the same banter. Yeah, Whiteside isn't lazy. Just don't acknowledge it. We rehash the same shit every week. Gotta keep calling out the BS opinions, though, because this is actually a narrative that's used too much, and it needs to be called out. Because if it's not being called out, more people will say it. That's the thing. And the thing is, I barely spend any time talking about it. I spent 30 seconds talking about that. This live stream has been going on for an hour and 15 minutes, and I spent 30 seconds responding to that. I feel like it needs to be called out, but I don't spend a ton of time talking about it. This post-game show, more than any others, provides insightful stuff that people don't talk about, instead of the same generic surface level stuff, the same generic takes that people just rehash and reuse all over again. Like so if that bugs you, then I don't know what to tell you, because I try to keep it fresh. I try to keep up with the same, or I try to keep up with what's going out there on the court and explain things in depth and go fully into it.
And part of the thing is, it's been similar issues every game, like the ball movement, the defense, the lack of 3-point defense, the falling asleep on the backside. This is all stuff we point out continuously every game, and it continues to be a problem. And that's frustrating to us that we're sitting here 20 plus games into the season talking about the same problems that we noticed at the beginning of the season too,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not our fault. We're just telling you what we're seeing on the court, and it's the same problems over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think his whole thing was like, don't respond to the trolls, but it's just like people will actually like say that opinion and be serious about it without trolling. Therefore, it needs to be called out. Like I was calling out that, like since I started calling that out, because it was being said a ton at the start of the season, but the more I called it out, the less I saw it being said. So I'm going to keep calling it out because it's a BS opinion. It's not fair to Hassan Whiteside, 33, 11, and 4 tonight. People were here calling him lazy. Like, it needs to be called out. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I spent 30 seconds on it. Yeah. So, I don't know. Eric Butchard, I want to see what he says back to this. He says, I think you spend too much time arguing with these generic takes rather than just doing the unique discussions. That's all. Okay, I disagree with that. But you're you're entitled to your opinion. Anyway, go on with what you were saying, Eric. Let's hear it.
Eric Klezer is saying he's having issues with PayPal and wants to know a different option.
If you want to donate to Patreon, that's monthly though. I don't know why PayPal worked for Robbie Stackhouse earlier. I don't know. How short are we to the wrap? I want to figure this out today. We're $87 short. But yeah, PayPal, I'll send the link again. Maybe the link was bad. I don't know, but like Robbie used it. Y'all trying to get me to put out a rap track.
And I think you don't necessarily have to have like a hustle guy, because like Dame and CJ, they haven't looked like this in years past, where they're just kind of looking frustrated and like there's no real way to get out of it, you know? I mean, part of that's the way the team is performing, and then when you come out struggling shooting on top of that, when you know you have to play better and you know you have to play with urgency, it's tough to balance whether you're doing things incorrectly because you're trying too hard to overcome it. So it's like a delicate balance. I just don't understand why this team isn't seemingly leaving it all out on the floor right now if they don't want it to go this poorly, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it did, like Melo coming aboard did provide a little bit of a spark. The team seemed to have got a little bit of chemistry with him coming aboard. But like our bench is so bad. Like we just have too many holes right now that can't make up for the lack of energy. And it's almost like it's contagious and
yeah, I mean, like I'm not trying to, and I'm not trying to make it sound like, okay, this roster is great because we have a lot of holes. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like the problems I see is problems that we shouldn't be having regardless as an NBA team. You know what I mean? It's stuff that's like not really affected by roster construction. And I don't point out really the problems that we necessarily have with roster construction. The main reason for that is because people use that too much to excuse every other problem. So I don't give that all that much credit because it's normally used as an excuse. But roster construction can be a problem along with poor coaching, along with lack of energy, along with not doing the fundamentals right. And that is basically where we're at right now.
And that's why earlier today on Twitter I said, so the Nets waived Iman Shumpert, who hasn't been great offensively, but he's an energy defender. And like he's a streaky shooter, so he can get hot. But overall, his numbers aren't great. But you bring in someone like that, you apply for the disabled player exception, and you bring in Fareed, and you got all of a sudden two guys who are better than some of our lower end rotation guys right now. And you plug those guys in. Fareed, if anything, is going to give you energy on the rebounds, and that's exactly what we need right now. So like it's just frustrating that. There are ways to fix this temporarily. Like Olshay said, he's not looking for a trade to fix either of those things this year, but that's something that if you bring in two guys like that off the scrap heap, you don't have to give up anything for them, and they can help you this year, and it doesn't affect any of your plans for the following year, you know?
Yeah, I just think you owe it to Dame to try and get this roster good enough to potentially win a first-round series. Obviously, you got to get into the playoffs, but then try and get this roster good enough to win a first-round series this year. Dame's in his prime. I think you kind of owe it to Dame. That starts off with them making a move for like a Glenn Robinson just to like fix that small forward position, whether it's give up a second-round pick or 2 second-round picks. You can always buy your way into the back half of the second round. So it's not, I'm fine giving up second-round picks for a guy like that. Yeah, we could go out and get Iman Shumpert for free, but 33% from the field, 24% from three. Last year he was 37% from the field, under 35% from three. He's just so bad offensively. Like, yes, he might be a little bit better defender than than Mario. Like he's a solid defender. I just don't think he's like good enough defensively where like he'll really help our team. His true shooting percentage 40%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and he is a good defender. He's just like he's not good enough for me to think like okay that's gonna really help us.
Well, I mean,
so
I know you just said his stats from last year too, where he played on at least 2 different teams, right? But this year, 13 games, you have like 1 or 2 really bad shooting games, which he did after starting off kind of hot. It kind of ruins the percentages there. But
yeah, but
yeah,
why does he take that many shots in the first place? You know what I mean? Nights that he doesn't shoot well. I don't know. I've never liked him as an offensive player at all. He's never been efficient.
I haven't liked him as an offensive player either. It's just, I don't know. I just think we need to do something.
Like, if we want to bring in a good defender that literally can't do anything offensively, might as well go sign Tony Allen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Tony Allen's been out of the league for a while, but who's to say Iman Shumpert's any better than Tony Allen? Because Tony Allen, I bet, could defend at the level that Iman Shumpert's doing, and neither of those guys do squat offensively. Like, I don't know. I mean, Shumpert is better than Tony Allen at this point. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? That's basically like the level of player we're talking about.
Yeah,
you probably disagree with that.
No, I'm not saying Shumpert's a great player. I'd rather have him on the floor than like Hazonia right now, or like, you know. It's just
yeah. I don't know. Eric Kleser says, if I create a Patreon account, donate $25 a month for 4 months, you'll rap. God, it takes time to fix my PayPal. Nope, that's not the deal. It's $100 in this chat. But if you donate $25 a month for 4 months, like you can do a mailbag with me as well as come on a live stream. That's the perks for donating $25 a month to PayPal. $10 a month will get you on a live stream once a month. We just don't really have many people donating to the Patreon, so that hasn't really been a thing yet. So, that doesn't count because I don't really want to do it because I'll get clowned in my personal life. I'll get people playing it to me, and it'll, you know what I mean. I'll try and make it actually sound good. I listen to a lot of rap. I feel like I could actually make it decent, but I'm trying to avoid that by making the donation amount high enough. But that's
so.
It's up to y'all.
Leo asked what your opinion is on Barkley saying that Dave CJ and the Blazers ceiling was basically getting the Western Conference Finals. I disagree. Yeah, it's kind of dumb because last year him and Kenny were the ones saying that the Blazers could make the finals and possibly win it all last year, and now you're saying after making it almost that far last year, like just getting off to a bad start the next year, like without a full team means that they can't ever get back to that point again. Like, I don't know. That's just dumb.
Here's the easiest way to explain why I think it's dumb. You think their ceiling is the team they had with Maurice Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Enes Kanter as their starting 3 through 5 guys? That's the ceiling? Like, they can't improve those guys and do better?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, you know, they were up at times in the Western Conference Finals. You know, they blew that series, but like the ceiling of Dame and CJ is the team that they had with a completely average to mediocre starting front court. Like, if you get Robert Covington, Otto Porter Jr., and get Nurkic back and healthy, why wouldn't that team be better than what they had?
Yeah, and you're not even talking like so. They've never had a different coach, so like, why wouldn't you try that first before splitting two like guys like that up, right? And they've never had like a legit third star, like if they were to acquire a Blake Griffin or something like that. So like, wouldn't you want to try that first? And then if that's not working, then maybe be like, okay, well maybe we need to trade CJ then and try something else. But like, I'm all for trading CJ, but it's not going to happen. And chat, please stop. Washington is not going to trade Bradley Beal for CJ. Bradley Beal is like twice the player CJ is right now. Like, he's been incredible this year, and
he just signed an extension, so I'm not sure he's even tradable all year long.
Yeah, he's not eligible. Just like CJ is not eligible to be traded until January 30th, so it's really dumb to even talk about trades involving him. But
yeah, it just doesn't make sense from multiple perspectives.
Sacramento's not going to trade Buddy Hield. he just signed an extension too, so he's not eligible, or it's really hard for him to be traded because he's on a contract where you have to like take more in than you can give out, and it just doesn't work.
See, this is for Eric Butchered though, because he says like, "Oh, you rehash the same stuff." I don't engage in trade CJ stuff because it's not going to happen. Yeah. So I don't even engage with it. I don't even give it the light of day, which is basically what he's saying he wants me to do more of. I already do that, especially with CJ trades. Anyway, Eric Kleiser, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, it's up to you, man. I appreciate anything you're willing to donate. I appreciate you trying to donate it through PayPal because I do lose like 40% of the stuff through YouTube. But I mean, it's, you guys are just supporting me. If you're really trying to get me to drop a track, then I would definitely appreciate it through PayPal so I get more money for probably embarrassing my family name. Thankfully, my mom doesn't have the same last name as me anymore. It's just me and my sister, and I don't care if I embarrass her. So I guess I'm good to go with a rap track.
You have a generic last name, so.
Yeah, I have a generic last name. I'll embarrass all the Joneses out there. Yeah. So.
And for chat, so I agree that like if you put CJ on the Orlando Magic right now, he would kill it in that position. But like there's not like really a good trade with them that I like that would make us better like anytime soon. It's just and he's not going to get traded. Like Olshey's not going to trade him unless something very drastic happens, like Dame demands that he's traded, which isn't going to happen either. So it's just not going to happen. We wouldn't have signed him to that extension if we had any plans of breaking up those two. So we just have to try to figure out a way to make that work with those two guys. And
I mean, the most I'd talk about is like hypothetically, okay, what would it take for like Orlando? Sure, I'd take like Jonathan Isaac, Evan Fournier, and their top 3 protected first round pick this year, and maybe another first round pick. That I definitely think about something like that, but that's not gonna happen. Orlando's not gonna do that. So like that's the thing. Any trade that I'd possibly consider for CJ, I don't see other teams doing, and I don't see the Blazers doing. So it's just, and we'd have to wait, and it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So. Eric Kleiser said the same thing, said combo Fournier, Isaac, and something for CJ, but no, it's just not going to happen. And CJ's been good lately. I don't even understand where this trade CJ stuff is coming from, because the problems that we have aren't because of CJ. They're not because of CJ at all. I mean, like, he does hurt our ball movement. He does isolate too much. That's really the only thing that you can point to. We have a lot of other problems that aren't due to CJ McCollum. So I feel like I feel like guys try and like, I feel like fans always have like a scapegoat player, whether it's CJ McCollum, whether it's Hassan Whiteside, whether it's, our backcourt combination being too small. I feel like fans tend to have like one area of the roster that they tend to like attribute most of our problems to, even though the problems don't apply. I don't know. I don't think like our bench is awful right now, so maybe that's my scapegoat. But like, I think our problems are due to our roster construction for the most part. Our problems is just like we're not doing the damn fundamentals.
Yeah, and I mean, if we had no injuries right now, our bench would be pretty solid, I think.
But like if we're not doing the fundamentals, we'd still be losing games.
Right.
If we're like, without these injuries, if we're 500, that's just as bad as like what we're doing now. You know what I mean? Like 500 with a healthy roster, with that roster, is just as bad. Like that roster should be better than that. This roster should be better than this. Like
doesn't anyone want to see what a lineup of Dame, CJ, Hood, Collins, and Nurk can do next year? I mean, I kind of want to see that, don't you? I mean, I'd like to be upgraded and have a great bench too, or move.
Imagine if you added Otto Porter Jr. and Robert Covington to that. Man. Right. That's the dream. That's the dream. God, that would be so much fun. That would be so much better.
But like, if you have Dame, CJ, and Hood playing like Hood was this year, and so you have all the scoring you need, and then you just have Nurk and Nurk being like a facilitator and him and Collins mostly focusing on defense, like that team would be really good. Our defense would be good. Like, I don't think there's a way that, I mean, I can't prove this, but there are ways to get to points where we can have a decent defensive team with those guys in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's hard for me to move off that pipe dream once I think about it, man. I just think about having Otto Porter Jr. being healthy and Robert Covington, and the thing is, like, we would have the means to add those guys without giving up a Collins or a Hood or something like that, and you add those guys to that roster, that would be a really solid defensive roster, because like Hood's average. CJ has improved. I'd say CJ has become average. I think Dame has kind of struggled a bit more this year than he did last year, but like he's kind of been worn down. So with a, better roster, maybe he could be average. Like that could be if you add like two guys like that. That's why I don't think like we've seen anything close to the ceiling of this roster. If you had added two guys like that, it doesn't even necessarily have to be those specific players, just two players in that mold. I think we would possibly have a borderline top 10 defense. Offensively, we should have a borderline top 5 offense with that roster. Who knows with Stotts and his system, that type of thing. That's the thing. That's why when Charles Barkley says, "Oh, we've seen the ceiling of this team," no, we haven't. We haven't seen like. We have the opportunity to fix this and be a championship contender next season. Yeah. This season is going to be tough with our injuries, but like, I still want to try and do the most we can this season. I don't know.
And it's funny that the comment was that you always bring up the same stuff. Like, I mean, what are we supposed to do? On every post-game show, we have one person in here, like B4TM4N, saying, "Oh, CJ should be a 6-man, come off the bench, drop buckets." Like, how many times do you have to tell people how dumb that is?
Yeah, I mean, no offense, man. You're entitled to your opinion, but that's definitely not the move for multiple reasons, and we've explained that. Also, I mean, like, how do you talk about? We're on an hour and a half. You know what I mean? You're gonna repeat some of the same things. You're not gonna be able to say something completely unique after every game when you're streaming for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, I just feel like that's a bit nitpicky, and people, I don't know, man. Like, people are entitled to their opinions. I don't hold it against people. I just think they don't really understand what it's like to. I feel like some people don't understand what it's like to be on this side of the camera, to be the one doing the stream. It's I mean, like, it's hard to like pick. Okay, what does Eric Butchard want me to respond to? What does chat like want me to respond to? And if I don't respond to that, is that something that like people are gonna start saying more and get me to respond to that? Like, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into this, so I feel like we do a good job, man. I feel like we do a good job. Well, hopefully you guys watching enjoy it.
And I know you're this way, but like, part of the cool thing about this is being able to interact with people on chat and talk about what they're talking about or whatever. So, like, to ignore that, it's just,
yeah. And yeah, I'm not hating on Chad doing it all with this, because this isn't a critique, but if you want to hear like the same stuff over and over again, go listen to the post-game show that Chad does on the radio. He takes callers. Most of them come with the same surface level takes, and then he spends a bunch of time responding to it. A lot of it is kind of like the same rehashed points, more so than this show. A lot more so than this show. And that's not like a dig on Chad I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. There's only so much you can say, and when people call in and say something, you kind of have to respond to it. You can't really pick and choose if you're in Chad situation doing a radio show with Collins. But like, I mean, I don't think anybody does that better than us in terms of like bringing unique viewpoints and different viewpoints to the table. We also don't have commercials, so look at it that way. The rehash stuff that you don't want to listen to, well, you could be listening to a commercial if you're watching TV or radio.
So we got to get to this Mellow State question he's asked like 20 times in chat. He's saying Blake struggled this year. Does that change your opinion at all?
It's hard to tell how much of it is like rust and he was injured this summer, and how much of it might be like him possibly starting his decline.
Yeah.
I'd want to see more Blake Griffin, like, before I make up my mind on whether or not my opinion on him has changed. You know what I mean? I'm more cautious than I was, but I need to see how he performs till the trade deadline. That would be a trade deadline move anyway, so we have time.
Much like I said about Iman Shumpert, Griffin's played in 12 games, so a couple of bad games skews his numbers. He's only playing 29 minutes a game, so his minutes are down too, so that's why his overall points per game, assists, rebounds aren't as high as they normally are. Yeah, I mean, you have to take a chance, and like we always talk about, the injuries and him not playing well, Detroit not playing well, is the only reason why we'd even have a chance of getting a guy like that for an expiring contract and some minimal assets. So we have to take a risk like that eventually. So if you had to put a gun to my head and say, like, today you either take him, even if this is who he is or not, I would take that risk that he's not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, that's a guy, at some point Blazers are going to have to make a risky trade that gets them championship upside. What risk is worth it and what provides that championship upside. People's opinions on that differ. Some people think Kevin Love provides that championship upside. We don't. You know what I mean? But if you do think Kevin Love provides that championship upside, then it makes sense to make a move for Kevin Love. We're just not on board with that because we don't think it provides the upside. So it really just depends on what you personally think will provide the Portland Trail Blazers with championship upside. And honestly, if we have championship upside, I'm willing to take a pretty big risk.
Yeah.
So that's basically, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I'm on board with trading our expiring contracts for a contract like Gorgie Jang's to try and get a little bit of value because they want to move off his contract. That value will help in the future, even if it's just second round picks. And then we could have the contracts able to trade next season where we could make a win now trade, and we basically push our need to make a win now trade back a season, because then instead of like, oh, we're running out, we have expiring contracts that they're going to run out, so we got to use them to try and upgrade this roster. If we trade them for 2-year deals, Otto Porter Jr. maybe, Gorgie Jang, with or without Covington, something like that, then, we wouldn't be in a panic and we wouldn't have to we wouldn't necessarily have to we could be more calculated, so to say, and we could wait till next year to make that trade if this year it's not in the cards. So that's why I like, if that trade's there, trade expirings for a guy that you think can provide you championship upside, maybe not necessarily this season, but in the future. And if not, have a fallback plan where you can trade for 2-year contracts to have the opportunity again next year.
Yep, I agree. So someone's asking, Mel Stay's asking, how many years do you think we have left to contend for a title with Damon CJ? If you continue to build like the young guys around him, by the time they're ready to develop, I mean, I think Damon CJ can be good as role players later on in their career too. So it doesn't have to be necessarily while in their prime, but I think you still have at least 3 or 4 seasons left of them in their absolute prime too. So,
yep. Gotta give a shout out to Eric Kleiser. I don't know if I'm saying your last name right, but he just dropped a $10 pledge on Patreon. So now we got 14 patrons. That's a $10 pledge. We got Zachary Thelis with a $10 pledge as well, so we'll have to bring both of them on a podcast. Now we have a couple people with some $10 pledges in there. If you donate $10 a month or more on Patreon, then you can join us on a post-game stream or a podcast. We'll let you guys pick, but that'll be something that'll be fun to do in the future, to get some of you guys, hear some of your thoughts on the stream. And if you donate $25 a month or more, then I'll try and get you on for like a video, like a mailbag, maybe a trade talk video. Hey, Eric, who should start this up, something like that.
It's pronounced Kleiser.
Kleiser, okay. No, for sure, man. I'll try to remember that. You guys can correct if I pronounce your name wrong. You guys can correct me. The people that are in here every game, because I do want to pronunciate. I can't even pronounce correctly. But I do want to pronounce your names right. Courtside Reports, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Of course, he said he went to the game. It was fire. We lost, though. I know that Courtside Reports is from Colorado, or he lives there. I don't know if he's from there, but it's been a while since I've seen you, man. Thelis is pronounced Tellus. Tellis. Oh, got you. That's Russell first round exit Westbrook. Tellis, got you. Glazer, like Blazer with the K. See, I can remember that. I got you. Everyone hated on Melo there. That's funny. I'm glad Melo had a good game tonight. There's something I wanted to respond to. Eric Butcher says Tank get a high pick, throw the kitchen sink at the Pels for Ingram. Ingram is a restricted free agent this summer, so they can't really trade him unless it was a sign and trade. But then in that case, we wouldn't really have the space to sign and trade under the hard cap. So there's really there's no way we can get Ingram. This offseason, they're not going to trade him regardless. It makes no sense for them to trade him. He's like kind of their centerpiece at the moment. Tanking as well. Like, how do you propose that we logistically go about tanking? I don't even want to respond to that because, like Eric, like we've gone in on this before, how it's like not logistically really possible to tank. I'm
gonna get mad
and how that can create create problems. I want to hear him logistically try and tell me how we could a detailed description of how we could go about tanking, because people throw that word out there, but I don't feel like they understand what it logistically means or like how unrealistic it is. Basically, Dame ain't gonna try and lose when he plays, and if you can't sit Dame for the season, so how you gonna tank? That's the fastest way I can say that. Anyway, I'm just scrolling through chat here.
Yeah, so I think it's totally different if you say we need to tank and get a high pick versus if we do bad this season, let's say we try our best but we don't make the playoffs and we end up with a high pick. That's fine. I'm cool with that silver lining. But to say we need to start losing these games because we can't beat the Knicks if we want the first pick, that's just not possible to do,
Yeah, exactly.
You know how bad they are? It's not possible to lose to some of these teams. So.
It would be so obvious too that it would create problems that people who suggest tanking, they don't foresee the problems that it would actually create.
Yeah.
Those teams suck. If we were that bad, people would be like, "There's no reason they should be that bad." There's something fishy there.
Yeah. What's up, Austin Wack?
What's up, Wack man? I just saw he was messaging me on Instagram. On my personal Instagram page that I don't use, I just saw those earlier today. Actually, sorry, I don't check that Instagram account. If you DM me, a lot of you guys do DM me too, and I'm not able to I don't know. I get DM'd so much and get tweeted at so much that I'm not really able to respond to it because other than games, I'm not on Twitter a ton. So I enjoy you guys tweeting stuff out to me. When I see it, I do try and reply, but I'm not gonna end up getting to everything. So don't feel offended or anything like that, or don't feel like I'm ignoring you if I don't respond to you tweeting at me or DMing me. You guys can still DM me. I don't want you guys to feel like I'm ignoring you because I like engaging with you. It's just I get tweeted at a lot, which is cool, man. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It just ends up with me not necessarily being able to respond to everything, but that comes with the increased engagement. So the engagement is good.
Do you want to respond to Eric Richard? I feel like I'm going to say something mean.
It's pretty easy to tank. Give lots of minutes to Brown Horde Little Simons. More than they're getting now. Boom, top 8 pick. So you think that Dame's going to be okay with that? Signing an extension, you think Dame's going to be okay with that? He's not going to be okay with that. You piss off the leader of your franchise.
Well, Stotts isn't going to do it either.
Yeah, Stotts isn't going to be down for it. So who decides? Who do you think is going to decide to play those guys a ton of minutes per game? You think Olshey's going to tell Stotts that? Stotts isn't going to want to be on board with that. It doesn't make any sense, man. You completely oversimplified that to the point that it's not even realistic. It doesn't make sense. Who says okay, play these guys 8 minutes? And honestly, you can only keep Horde and Brown in the NBA for a certain amount of time anyway. They've already used up some of their two-way days. They're only allowed 45 days up in the NBA during a season. So it doesn't make sense.
Austin Nas had back spasms apparently. But yeah, so this is my problem with people who say that. I'll try to put this politely. Like Stotts, Dame, CJ, Whiteside, Melo, those guys are trying to win basketball games. They still think they're in a playoff race and can make the playoffs. They're only 2 games out of seventh place in the playoffs. If they get healthy and make the playoffs, they think anything can happen. Just look at last year. Nurk goes down. They still make it to the Western Conference Finals. So you can't really tell them they're wrong to do that or to think that way. They've had a good second half of the season every season since Stotts and Dame have been around pretty much, except for maybe the first season when they were kind of hovering around the 8th spot and fell out of the playoff race. But that wasn't really a good team anyway. So, like, there's no way anyone on this team is thinking, oh, let's just play Horde and Brown and give up on this season. Like, that's just not something an NBA team does in the middle of a season when you just made the Western Conference Finals. It's a completely different situation in Golden State where their 2 best players are hurt for most of the year. And if we had the equivalent of Dame and CJ being hurt instead of Hood and Collins, then yeah, that would probably happen that way. And we'd be as bad as Golden State. We wouldn't even have to tank because we'd lose all those games anyway. But that just doesn't, like, those guys still think they can make the playoffs, and you're not going to be able to go to them and say, oh, you know what, we're going to give up on this season. You know what, we know you're in your prime, Dame, but, you just sit out this season. It'll be better for you in the long run. Like,
it doesn't make sense. And he responded, and he said, someone in the franchise has to make a decision that's right for the franchise. Okay, who? Who do you think is going to realistically make that decision? Because sure, that's good. Like, that's a good cliche way to put it. Like, oh, somebody has to make a decision that's best for the French. If Neil Olshey decides to try and make that decision, he and Stotts are going to clash. You're going to have a lot of issues there. If Jody decides to do that, she and Olshey are going to clash. Olshey's probably going to quit. Who knows if Stotts would quit. If that happens, Dame's going to lose trust in the organization. You don't want that. You might ask him demanding a trade or being unhappy. And like, if Dame's unhappy, this whole organization is just in the gutter no matter what. They could get the first overall pick. It's not like, if Dame's pissed, it's not going to be a good thing regardless of how high a pick we get. And yes, if we're 16 games under 500 at the All-Star break and have no chance of making the playoffs, then we can have that discussion. I don't know why you're coming in at game 26 saying tank. If you said maybe we should tank, 3 months from now if we're doing horribly, like, okay, well then we wouldn't really need to tank because we'd be doing horribly. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't really know what angle you're coming at here.
Yeah, it's like the end of that season I was talking about, Dame's first year, and we did it the season before with the Mutiny season. We kind of rested Aldridge the last 13 games of the season or whatever, and ended up, I think we had some restrictions to a pick we owed Charlotte for getting Gerald Wallace, so we had to make it a certain thing. And we would have had to give it to him if we didn't get into the top 10 to get the year CJ. We picked CJ. Mm-hmm. So, like, that kind of thing is a little different than just making sure but we were already eliminated from playoff contention at those points of the season. Yeah. It's totally different. We're 2 games out of a playoff spot, even though we're 6 games under 500. Well, if we're 16 games under 500 there's less than 2 months left at the season by the All-Star break. If we're 16 games under 500, we're out of the playoff picture, and it doesn't matter. We're bad enough to be a bad team anyway. But
here's what I think of as tanking, though. Like, if you're Portland, like, tanking means giving up on a possible playoff spot in order to make sure you get a lottery pick. A lot of people say, oh, the New York Knicks, they're tanking. That team's just awful.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that team's like in rebuild mode. I don't really view it as tanking. Like, people define tanking differently. For me, like, if Portland's going to tank, that means giving up on a possible playoff spot to make sure they get a lottery pick because that's what, they think is best long term. If there's 16 games under 500, there is no possible playoff spot, so that wouldn't be tanking, even if you decide to play the young guys more. So in terms of people suggesting tanking, that means give up on the chance of making the playoffs in order to get a lottery pick. And Dame and CJ and these guys' thoughts, Olshey, like, those guys aren't going to want to give up on a possible playoff spot. Like, it's not logistically going to happen. Like, it's such a non possibility that we shouldn't even be discussing it. And what's funny is Eric Butchard was the guy who was telling us not to respond about Whiteside being lazy. Like, let's not rehash that. That's just, don't respond to that type of stuff. That's trolling. And then he's, now we're doing that same thing with the whole tanking thing. So I think that's kind of funny.
And yeah, so if you go to Dame, if you're out of the playoffs and be like, dude, this season's done, like, why don't we play you less minutes, load manage you a little bit, and give some minutes to some young guys to see what we got here. Like, let's develop Simons so he's more ready next year. Like, then that's fine. But, like, you're not going to convince Dame right now that him only playing like 25 minutes a game or missing games when he's not injured is the best thing for him.
Well, he's trying to say now, like, obviously you don't tank at this moment. If the team hasn't fixed itself by mid-January, it's time to tank. You can't get the team on board with tanking. Why's my stream so stuttery all of a sudden? I think it's the Skype call or something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to log off in a second, but let's just end it with this while my stream starts to stutter. But when you said tank, you said tank, ... get a high draft pick. You didn't say, if we're such and such games, if we're doing this bad in mid-January, then tank. You just said tank and get a high draft pick. So how are we supposed to know? That's something you should specify. You
have to have a crappy team from the beginning of the season that can't win games even if they're playing well to tank. And like what Philadelphia did, there was one year when Dallas did it when Dirk was like 38, 39 years old, and they were obviously tanking, but they weren't able to sign any free agents that summer, and they were a bad team. They didn't really have any good players. So, like, it's just...
Yeah. I mean, Lillard and McCollum aren't going to be okay with resting unless the team is, like, basically eliminated from playoff contention. So if you start doing that before they're eliminated from playoff contention, you're going to piss off the stars of your franchise. You're going to cause issues in the locker room. You're going to cause trust issues between them and the organization. You're probably going to cause some tension between the head coach and the GM. I don't care how much I dislike the head coach. You don't want tension between the GM and the head coach, especially if you're going to keep both around. They just re-signed Stotts to an extension.
Yeah.
They just, I think, signed Olshey to an extension too, right? So, and who is realistically going to make that decision? These are competitive guys. They're not just gonna, give up on any chance at a playoff spot to get a high draft pick. It's such an unrealistic thought of mine. I don't care if you think it's the right thing to do. It's not logistically possible. It's going to cause issues. And honestly, like, okay, get a top 8 pick. All right, at the 8th pick, who do you really like? This draft is not that good. This isn't a good draft. Who at 8 do you really like that much that it's worth tanking for? The thing is that I don't like is people who suggest tanking don't like tell me, okay, and then we should target so-and-so in the draft. They just say, oh, get the 8th overall pick, but it's like they don't ever like bring up like, okay, get the 8th overall pick so we can draft so-and-so, or so we can, this draft is not good. This draft is not that good, man. So you're talking about the 8th overall pick and getting a guy like, I don't know, who's the 8th overall pick like 3 years ago? Frank Ntilikina, who is the 8th overall pick? I'm trying to think of past 8th overall picks, because if you look back in the past, they probably weren't that good. I'm going to look up NBA draft, and I'm going to list off some names.
And two, I mean, people say like, oh, a lottery pick will do wonders for this team. Well, we got a lottery pick in Zach Collins, even though we made the playoffs several years in a row. Like, it is possible to make trades and move up and get a pick without even having to tank.
Which is why, if it's possible, you try and trade Whiteside for maybe a bad contract. Trade Whiteside to a team that wants him and has a bad contract over like the next 2 years. I can't think of a team off the top of my head, and get a first-round pick, and then you can combine picks and trade up in the draft if there's a player that you really, really want, but you're not creating all these issues and you're not giving up on the season. And you can still make the playoffs and still possibly do that. You know what I mean? So that's the way to go if you really like have a player at 8th or 10th overall that you really have to have. But there's really no player that I see at that position that you really have to have. You know what I mean? There's not.
And then you have the same people next year being like, oh, why do we focus so much on a draft pick? It's not going to help for several years anyway.
Exactly. It's the same people, bro. It's just like I don't understand. I'm not saying that's necessarily you, Eric Bouchard. I just gotta pick one and go with it. But yeah, I mean, let's see the eighth overall. The eighth overall pick in 2016 was Marquise Chris. The eighth overall pick in 2017 was Frank Ntilikina. The eighth overall pick in 2015 was Stanley Johnson. Let's see. Let's keep going. Let's keep going back.
Well,
the eighth overall pick in
I love the draft. I would love to have a high pick at some point.
The eighth overall pick in 2014 was Nick Stauskas. This is all like 2014 through 2017. Nick Stauskas, Stanley Johnson, Frank Ntilikina, Marquise Chris. But we got to tank for a guy like that, right? Obviously there's better players available, but like it's a crapshoot. Like Contavious Caldwell Pope in 2013, that's the best player I've named so far. That dude's a role player. 2012, I don't think it was anybody that good either. 2012, it was Terrence Ross. 2011, let's see. I'm going to keep going until we find somebody good at 8th overall. Brandon Knight in 2011. 2010, I'm trying to find an all-star or somebody close to an all-star. Al-Farouq Aminu in 2010. We're going to keep going. I mean, this is 8th overall picks. I'm trying to find somebody like legit. Jordan Hill.
Yeah,
dude.
The other thing too is we're not going to out-tank the Warriors at this point, right? We're not going to be as bad as the Knicks. We're not going to be as bad as the Cavs or the Hawks or the Wizards probably, and we're probably not going to be bad enough to fall behind like Memphis or New Orleans. So
we're looking at like, okay, maybe we get lucky in the lottery.
5, 6. That's 7. So at best, you're probably 8th. Yeah, you can fall all the way to like 6th, or you
have to get lucky and get into the top 4. That's if you like completely tanked, and like I still don't think they'd even be able to get as high as 8th, even if they did try and tank and create all these issues. By the way, 2008, and I know my NBA players. I've never heard of Joe Alexander, who was the 8th overall picked in 2008, and I know NBA players as well as anybody. So yeah, these are the players available at the 8th overall pick, which is probably what we'd be looking at. Brandon Wright in 2007, it's bad. It's bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, there was guys they could have drafted that would have been all-star, but that's the thing you don't know when you draft at that point in the draft. And this isn't a good draft. I found a good player finally. 2006 was Rudy Gay. Okay, there you go. But that's what I'm saying. It's a crapshoot. It just literally makes no sense to like try and create all those problems to try and get to the 8th overall pick, which is probably the best we could do unless we got extremely lucky in the lottery, and then we'd have a chance to draft a guy like a Stanley Johnson or a Nick Stauskas or an Al-Farouq Aminu or a Marquise Chris or the list goes on and on. So no, it's not the right decision.
I mean,
and if we're that bad, then we're that bad. We don't have to try and tank. So.
And honestly, the way this season's going, I'd be fine with that. Like, if we did end up in that range and we could have a really awesome draft stream because we have a high pick, you know?
That would be dope. But, yeah.
And I agree with you, Eric, that it is a fallacy to just look at a singular pick. But
that just shows you how, like, teams that ended up with the 8th overall pick ended up with players who didn't do anything, because I feel like people are like, oh, if we can get an 8th overall pick, we'll end up with a good player, like, automatically. No, you won't. There's a number of players there that were horrible players. Like, year after year after year, there's been horrible players that were drafted 8th overall at that point in the draft, especially in a bad draft, which is what this upcoming draft is. You're probably not going to find a player that's going to be an all-star at some point in his career. The odds are against you at that point in the draft. Like,
and
if you don't understand what we're trying to say, all the like how we completely laid this out, then you can keep thinking, okay, tank in mid-January. But
and this makes me mad too. So he says, it's not just about drafting; it's about an asset that you can move that has high value. Well, if we're bad, like we're in the lottery right now, so our pick has high value in a trade right now. Like, you don't have to tank to make it better. and teams know that you're not going to. If we win the lottery, we're not going to trade that pick most likely.
Yeah, but also, is he suggesting trading that pick for a player for like a good near star level player that has a sizable contract? Because we won't have contracts to trade for a sizable contract unless you're giving up a Nurkic. The thing is, Nurkic is only making $12 million, so how are you going to bring in $27 million? You're going to have to trade one of CJ or Dame, but like those guys would have more value than the lottery pick, so it'd be more about trading those guys than getting the lottery pick in the first place to trade. So, oh my goodness.
Did you see Neil O'Shea's graced us with his presence in the chat?
Oh, what's up, Neil? I'm glad that you agree with us and think there's no point in tanking for the purpose for an 8th pick. Glad you know what you're talking about, Neil. We're not tanking on purpose, guys. Neil O'Shea. We found Neil O'Shea's burner, except that he left it titled Neil O'Shea.
Someone was saying that's the ironic part. His burner is his real name, so no one thinks it's actually him.
Yeah. But anyway, this tanking thing is the last thing we're talking about. After we're done talking about this, I'm gonna wrap up this stream. Probably gonna wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. Like ever since I got the Skype call on, like my OBS software has like started to like stutter, like the CPU usage is a bit too high, which is weird. Well, it's strange. It's never really been a thing because we do our podcasts and it's not a problem, but maybe that's because I already have the Skype call up before I start streaming, so then it doesn't. Maybe it's because. But the thing is, I've called you midstream in the past, and it hasn't had problems like this. So I don't know what happens. I need a good computer. I'll be so excited to do that because then I can do like graphic packages and like and stuff like that, like and make it look good. And I could stream at 1080p instead of 720p. It'd be clear. There wouldn't be any like sync delay, that type of thing. So hopefully that'll be in the future.
If the real Neil O'Shea was ever watching this, I will be your assistant GM for free.
So me and Eric will be a team, and we'll be the best assistant GMs you'll have, man. In terms of no, I mean I'm kind of kidding, but like because there's legal stuff and like a bunch of like different stuff that the assistant GM has to like figure out that we know nothing about. But in terms of just like knowing the NBA, knowing trade value, knowing the CBA, that type of thing,
yeah,
I feel like we could fit in there.
Could you imagine our expertise combined with actually knowing who's making calls, who's available, what other teams want from us, and trying to like, because we try to figure that out without even knowing any inside information. Mm-hmm. Like, can you imagine if we actually knew inside information and
I know.
If
we had like sources.
Spend all day like trying to figure out. Okay, so Cleveland wants this and this and they're willing to give up these players. And like, how can we make it work? And then we just go to town.
My goal in the future will be to. Like this goes in part with something that I can't say on air that I've told you about, Eric. I think you'll know where I'm going with this, but my goal in the future is to be able to have a number of inside intel, to have some inside intel on different teams, different stuff like that. I want to have sources that I could speak about confidently to people. Who knows if people would believe me being the YouTuber, but I want to be able to like get kind of plugged into the league in the next couple of years in that way. But as far as any fans, like if they had to have like a fan or two as GM, I feel like we'd be up there at the top, me and you. I say that with confidence, you know. Some people be like, "You just being cocky." Like I'm confident in what I know, and I'm confident in my knowledge. You know what I mean? But like I've studied the CBA. You know what I mean? I've taken the time to sit there and study the CBA. Like not many people are gonna do that. You know what I mean? So
I kind of got into a CBA related thing over the the disabled player exception.
Yeah.
So we had Casey Holdall was involved, Eric Griffith from Blazers Edge, and Bobby Marks from ESPN.
Really? I'll have to look at that, bro.
But yeah, so yeah, I'm I'm pretty sure I'm right, but whatever.
Go follow Eric on Twitter if you want to know what he's talking about, at Hoopstruck. I got to wrap up the stream. I got to go, but if you guys want to know,
Later,
that
guys.
sounds interesting. I'll definitely go check it out, but I got to sign off. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning into this post-game show. Tough game tonight, but we'll catch you tomorrow with our podcast as always. So that's a wrap for me and Eric Brandt. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Go Blazers.